All right, we are going to go through the practice test. Remember, you are welcome to pause the video, fast forward the video to any piece of the practice test that you need. So the first question, this is a 4-point question, 1 point for each. So it says an algebraic expression is given, select true or false for each statement. The expression has 4 terms. Remember, a term is the piece. So 1 piece, 2 piece, 3 pieces, 4 pieces, 5 pieces. So this is a false statement. There aren't 4 terms, there are 5. Terms again are the pieces that are separated by these symbols. The second statement, the number 2 is the constant. Remember, a constant is a number with no variable. So when I look up here, 7 doesn't have a variable, 6 doesn't have a variable. So my constants are not 2, but they are 7 and 6. So that is false. The number 3. The number 7, 1, and 2 are coefficients. Remember, coefficients have to do with the variable. They are the number that sits in front of the variable. So when I look at these variables, there's a variable here, here, and here. There is a 1 that sits in front of this variable. There is a 7 that sits in front of this variable, and there is a 2 that sits in front of this variable. So the variables are 7, 1, and 2. So that is a true statement. And the last statement, the term x squared means 2 x's or 2 times x. Well, it is correct. It does mean 2 x's, so 2 x's, but it does not mean 2 times x. It means x times x. So that is false. Again, this is a 4-point question. Number 2, the volume of the cube is found using this formula. Volume equals S times S times S, where S is the length of the side. Write the volume of the cube using an exponent. So I can see that we have 3.9.
Ed is sophomore who plans to decorate the hall. It has been changed to tomorrow after school. Any high schooler wanting to attend campus-wide, please report to the cafeteria at this time. Thank you.
Sorry for that interruption. So 3.9 is what I'm replacing these S's with. So 3.9 times 3.9 times 3.9. So using an exponent, that is 3.9 cubed. Remember up here, we said it's not 2 times x, it's 3.9 3 times. It's x 2 times. So this is a review of our exponents. Letter B or part B, find the volume of the cube if the lengths are 3.9 inches. Express your answer as a decimal and do not round. So what this wants you to do is work out the problem. So the first thing you're going to have to do is take your 3.9 times 3.9. 9 times 9 is 81. 9 times 3 is 27. Plus 3 is 35. So we've done the 9. Ready for the 3, but don't forget, hold your place. 3 times 9 is 27, so carry that 2. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 2 makes 11. And now we just need to add. So we get 1, 12. So that would be 3, 4, 5, and 1. We have 2 decimal spots. So this was 15.21. And now I've got to take it times the last 3.9. So 15.21 times 3.9. Again, multiply first by the 9. 9 times 1 is 9. 9 times 2 is 18. Carry the 1. 9 times 5 is 45. Plus 1 is 46. 9 times 1 is 9. Plus 4 is 13. Hold your place. We've multiplied by the 9. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 5 is 15. Carry the 1. 3 times 1 is 3. Plus 1 is 4. We add all this up. Let's see, 12, 13. Carry the 1. 9, 5. And I'm looking at 1, 2, 3 decimal spots. So 1, 2, 3 spots over. My final answer is 59.319. This is a 2-point problem. 1 point part A, 1 point part B. I will give you a half a point on part B if you set up your equations and you just mismultiply. Be careful with your multiplications. All right, and 3. It says, write 9 less than 8 times the number of channels on Sophia's TV as an algebraic expression. Use S as your variable. So it said 9 less than. So that told me to subtract 9. The second half said 8 times the number of channels on Sophia's TV. Well, we know Sophia's TV channels is S. So S, and it said do that 8 times. So 8S minus 9. And you are welcome to write it as a multiplication or as a combination of 8S minus 9. This is 1 point that you can write your algebraic expression correctly. All right, that takes us to the back of the first page. And number 4. In a triangle, there are 2 sides that have the same length. The third side is 2.1 times longer than the length of the other 2. Write an algebraic expression representing the perimeter using S as the variable. So draw yourself a picture to help you explain here. So here's my triangle, and here's what it says. There are 2 sides that have the same length, and it told me to use S as my variable. So 2 sides are the exact same. This third side is 2.1 times longer than the other side. So it's 2.1s. And then it says, write the equation for the perimeter. Remember, perimeter means we add up all the sides. So we have S plus 2.1s as our equation. You have to add up all the sides in perimeter. We cannot use S squared because that would be an S times S. This is a 1-point problem. You just need to write the equation. Number 5 and 6, these are both very similar. They involve substitution and evaluating for the variables. So here's my equation, 12a minus b, and I'm supposed to evaluate it when a is 1/3 and b is 2. So remember, anytime my variable sits next to my number, it's a multiplication, and then I'm going to minus 2. Well, order of operations tells me the first thing I should always do is multiply. And I know I can multiply by taking 12 over 1 times 1 over 3, which would get me 12 over 3, or 12 divided by 3, which would, of course, be 4. So I have 4 minus 2. 4 minus 2 is 2. This is a 2-point problem, Since we just begun algebra, I'm going to give you a point that you know to substitute this in, and that you know this is multiplication when a letter and a number set side by side. Then I'll give you your second point that you can work out the math correctly. Problem 6 is also a 2-point problem for the same exact reasons. An expression 1/2 BH can be used to find the area of a triangle. Find the area if B equals 4.2 and H equals 12. Express your answer as a decimal. So again, here is my equation. We know this is multiplication, and I'm going to substitute in the values it gave me. This is your very first point that you can do this part. Your next point comes that you can do the math. Now remember, when we have multiplication, we can multiply in any order. Our associative property says we can associate whatever numbers we want to. We can group whatever numbers we want to. And we talked about during class that it's much easier to put half of 12 into our equation because we know half of 12 is 6. And then all we have to do is take 4.2 times 6. And 2 times 6 is 12. 4 times 6 is 24, plus 1 is 25. It has one decimal place. So my answer is 25.2. And yes, you could have taken half the 4.2 and then multiplied by 12. Or you could have taken the 4.2 times 12 and then found half of it, because that associative property says we can go in any order if it's all multiplication. So again, this is a 2-point problem, 1 point that you substitute in correctly, and 1 point that you use that numerical expression skills from last module. Which takes us to problem number 7. 7 says a vendor sells popcorn and candy bars at a theater. The booth rental costs $50. Each popcorn, which is the letter P, sells for $4.25. Each candy bar, the letter C, sells for $2.50. Part A, identify the expression that models the total amount the vendor will earn. So when we're talking about earnings, that tells me we are going to be adding. So I can take this equation out right off the bat. I am not going to subtract anything when I'm talking about my profit. I don't want to take my popcorn minus my candy bar profit. That's not going to tell me my earning. So I see an interesting thing here on these two, C and D, that's not on A. There's a 50. And when I go back up and look at my problem, I see that 50 is there as the booth rental cost. So I have to do something with the 50. And here's what this tells me. My profit is my popcorn plus my candy bars. So just like A says, but my booth cost me $50 of my profit, which means A can't be it because it doesn't have me do anything with the $50. So I'm left with the decision to make. Do I take the $50 and subtract my profit, or do I take my profit and subtract $50? Well, to find out what I make, I would do D. I would find out my total profit and then subtract the $50 off. And that gets you 1 point. Your second point for this problem, because this is a 2-point problem, comes from that you can substitute in and do the math. So it says 4.25 times P, which it says is going to be 35, plus 2.5 C, which means times 40. And once I find my profit, I'll subtract 50. So if I sold 35 popcorns and I sold 40 candy bars, this is how I would figure out my total profit. All right, so let's get to work. Order of operations says we've got to multiply first, well, parentheses first, and then I've got to multiply inside the parentheses. So I'm going to take 4.25 times 35. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 2 is 10. Plus 2 makes 12. 5 times 4 is 20. Plus 1 is 21. 5 is done. I'll hold its place. 5 times 3 is 15. Carry that 1. 3 times 2 is 6. Plus 1 makes 7. 3 times 4 is 12. So I'm left to add that up. And looks like I just need 2 decimal spots. So I made $148.75 on popcorn, plus whatever I'm going to make over here off my candy bar sales. So I'm going to take the 2.5 times 40. Multiplying by the 0, remember, I can just hold the place and now go 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10. I need 1 decimal spot, so I'm going to put it here. So that's just $100. And once I add those two together, I'll take off the $50 for the booth rental fee. So $148.75 plus 100 would be $248.75 minus 50. Remember, when I go to line up my decimals, when I subtract, we've got to make sure the 50 goes under the 48 so that I line my decimals up correctly. And I'm going to get a 5, a 7, an 8. 4 minus 5 can't do that. 14 minus 5 I can do. That's a 9. And I have 1.
Any student junior high interested in wrestling this year, please report to the GPR at this time. Junior high interested in wrestling.
So my answer would be $198.75 is the total profit. Again, this is a 2-point problem, one that you selected this correct equation. And the second point comes from that you substituted in the numbers it gave you and worked your math correctly. I will give you a half point on this one if you substitute in your numbers correctly, but you didn't get the math part of it right. So make sure you show me all of your work. Number 8 is a 2-point problem as well. It says 2 students are rewriting this expression. 7 times g plus 8. And the g plus 8 is in parentheses. Megan rewrites the expression like this, 7g plus 8. Seth rewrites the expression like this. So here's what I know. If I have a number times parentheses, I've got to take and distribute that number to each piece. So I would have 7g plus 7 times 8 is 56, which means Seth is correct, which gets you 1 point that you can tell me who is correct. And the second point comes from your explanation. So you should explain something like, he remembered to give a 7 to each piece, or to distribute a 7 to each piece. Megan forgot and only gave the 7 to the first piece and just wrote the 8 down as part of her equation. So a 2-point problem there. Number 9 is just a 1-point problem. You are simplifying the expression. So the way to simplify this expression is to combine all the like terms. So when I look, I see 4a squared and an a squared, which means I have 5a squared, which means that can't be it, that can't be it. That bottom one didn't have any a squared. Then I look at my just a's, and I see a 3a and a 7a. So I get 10a, which looks like it should be this one. Let's evaluate our constants just to be sure. When I look at my constant, I see there's a 6 and a 9, and 6 plus 9 is 15, which is exactly what is there. So A is the correct answer. This is a 1-point problem. All right, the final 3 problems on the back. Number 10. Are these 2 expressions equivalent? Prove your answer using any method. So we went over 2 methods here. One of the methods was substitution. So you could substitute in a value, or you could use the method that we just did. So let's prove it with substitution first. So if I substitute x equals 1 in here, I would have 6 times 1 squared plus 2 plus 2 times 1. Order of operations says exponents first. 1 times 1 is 1. Order of operations says multiply next. 6 plus 2 plus 2. We add that up. We get 10. All right. So I'm going to come over here, do the same thing. 4 times 1 squared plus 3 times 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 2 times 1 squared. Again, it's just substituting in those values. Remember, anytime we have a coefficient in front of the variable with no sign, that's a multiplication. So order of operations says go through and get rid of these exponents first. So 1 times 1 is just 1. So I go through and do all of the variables. And now I go back through and answer all these multiplications. So 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1 plus 2. Remember, this is another associative property. I can add or put together anything I want to first. So 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 1 makes 5, plus 3, 8. 8 plus 4 is 12. So I got no, because 12 does not equal, 10 does not equal 12. So this is not equivalent. And I could explain by saying no. I substituted, and I'm just going to put sub, and got different answers. So that would give me both my points right here. I told yes or no, and I explained. The other way that you might want to do it is by combining like terms. So when I look at these 2 equations here, I notice that I can't simplify this any. But if I come over here, I have 4x squared and 2x squared. So that's the same as 6x squared, which is exactly what I have over here. When I look at my x's, I have a 3x and an x. So that's a 4x. And my constant is just a 2. So my constant matches and my x squared matches, but my x's don't match. So this would be a no as well. And instead of saying I substituted, because I didn't substitute this time, no, I combined like terms and got 2 different equations. Again, I do not care which method you use. It tells you you can use your choice, but you need for both points your yes or no and the explain. All right, number 11. Use greatest common factor to factor this algebraic expression. So the first thing we have to do for the first point, greatest common factor, Let's see, if I do 3 times 4, the 3 is done. I can do 2 times 2. So I have a 3, a 2, and a 2. 36. I could use 6 times 6. A 3 and a 2, a 3 and a 2, and I am done. Remember, it doesn't matter whether you use the same problems or not that I do. You should get the same factor list at the end. We see they both share a 2, they share a 3, and they share another 2, which means my greatest common factor is 3 times 2 times 2, which is 12. Now I'm going to pull that 12 out, and I've got to see 12 times what gets me back to 12. Well, that's just 12 times 1, plus 12 times what gets me back to 36. That's a 3, and my x has to go with the second number there, and that is equation 1, which gets me my second point for number 11. And the final question on this test, select 2 expressions that are equivalent to the given expression. So when I look, this is a distributive property again. So I would distribute the 3 to the 7 and the 3 to the 12. So I would get 21x plus 12. And that's not an option that I see as a correct answer. So I have to look again. When I go, there is nothing that is distributing here. And I can't combine anything because there's a plus and a multiplication. So I can rule out that one. So I only have 3 left to consider. So this says take a times 3 at the end. So look what it says. It says there's a times 3 back here, which means I still distribute to each of the pieces. So I would have 21x plus 12, which is the exact same thing up there. It just moved my 3 from the front to the back. On this one, it tells me to take a 7x times the 4 plus 3. So if I would give that, distribute that, I would have 28x plus 21, which is not the same thing. So hopefully this one's right. This one has a times 3 at the end, which again, just means pass the 3 out to each of the pieces. So I would have 12 plus 21x, which we have the same thing. Remember, it's addition, so it can be in reversed order. So this one is 1 point, and I'm going to give you a half point for each correct answer you chose.
This one is junior high campus life member please report to the cafeteria. Junior high campus life.
All right, please make sure that you look over these, practice, and if you have questions, remember to ask before we take our test on Wednesday. Good luck studying.